Calabarzon Film Festival is brought to you by the University of the Philippines Los Baños, University of the Philippines Los Baños Foundation Incorporated, Film Development Council of the Philippines, National Commission for Culture and the Arts, and Pasalidahay. So now I'm going to share some house rules po for our event this afternoon. So feel free to turn on your video for the duration of the panel discussion. Kindly use the chat box to send in your comments and insights during the panel discussion or reply to the comments of the other attendees. We only ask that you keep your messages related to the topic being discussed. Please stay on mute if you would like to speak. Click the raise hand button so the moderator may call you to speak. During the Q&A later, you may type your questions in the Zoom chat box. We will be collating questions that are of the same nature to maximize our time for the Q&A. At the end of the session, please let us know your thoughts by answering our survey form through the following link. If you have any immediate concerns, please let us know by sending a private message to any of our facilitators in the Zoom chat box. Thank you very much. Our festival, the Pelikultura de Calabarzon Film Festival, is a regional film festival for the growing community of filmmakers and film enthusiasts in Calabarzon. Established in 2010, the festival continues to provide a venue for Region 4 ace budding and experienced independent filmmakers to showcase their films as well as connect with other filmmakers and cineasts. It also creates a community of diverse and vibrant culture that is surprisingly distinct from the nearby metropolis. The panel discussion and film archiving forms part of this year's Pelikultura de Calabarzon Film Festival. Many of our films are lost, leaving us with almost nothing to look back on in our film history. Recently, some archiving initiatives work to ensure that this will not happen again to Filipino films. This panel will explore initiatives in archiving Filipino films, including those from the region. So as mentioned earlier, today is the last day of our event. So after our program, after this program, we will have later the closing and awarding ceremony and the premiere of Pelikultura 2021 workshop films. So now I'm going to introduce our moderator. Yes, don't forget to follow us po pala through or on our social media sites on Facebook, Pelikultura de Calabarzon Film Festival, Instagram, on YouTube. So we are live now on YouTube and as well as our Discord channel. So our moderator's career in cinema spans more than 3.5 decades. Currently, he teaches film-related courses at the University of the Philippines, De La Salle University, and De La Salle College of St. Benilde. His special teaching focus is on contemporary Southeast Asian cinema, film festival management, and philosophy and Pinoy cinema. He served at the Cultural Center of the Philippines as the director of the CCP Media Arts Division. A founding member of the Cinemalaya Philippine Independent Film Festival, he was also in charge of the festival's programming. He also held a brief stint as editor-in-chief of the Asia-Europe Foundation's Film 360 online site. At the CCP, he organized alternative cinema festivals, film workshops, and fora, and managed the longest-running indie film and video competition in Asia, the Gawad CCP para sa Alternatibong Pelikula at Video, which started in 1987. In 2007, he was awarded an Asian Public Intellectuals Fellowship grant by the Nippon Foundation for his research entitled Changing Landscapes, Changing Lives, the Changing Cinemas of Asia. From the mid-70s, he continues to write columns and articles for Philippine and international publications, a two-time Palanca awardee for playwriting. His play, The Theater of Director Julius Opus, was published as a book by the UP Press in early 2000s. Another title, Film Noir, was also published in Ateneo de Manila University's Budhi Philosophy Journal. His book on philosophy and film entitled Heidegger's Being and Time and Manuel Silos Biyaya ng Lupa was recently released by the UP Press. Since 2008, he does jury work for a host of international film festivals, including the Busan International Film Festival, Berlinale's Forum, Amsterdam's IDFA International Documentary Film Festival, to name just a few. At these events, he delivered papers on a variety of topics related to Philippine and Asian cinema, to mention a few on Asian superheroes, Pinoy indies. In early 2010, he completed a 5-week scholarship training on film festival management in Berlin, Germany, sponsored by the Deutsche Welle Academy. He also served as an executive committee member of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts Cinema Committee for 9 straight years. More recently, he was a member of the Metro Manila Film Festival Executive Committee 2016, which brought much needed reform to the longest running nationwide festival of the Philippines. His retirement from the CCP in 2014, he continues to support the growing Pinoy indie scene by conducting film festival management workshops nationwide. Among the most active regional events are the Montanosa Film Festival in Baguio City, Nabi Filmex in Nabunturan, Compostela Valley, Salamindanao in General Santos City, and recent editions of Cinema Region Festival of the NCCA. He also mentors academic institutions in putting up their own film fests, the CineSB for the De La Salle College of St. Benilde, the Birdie for the De La Salle University, to name a few. Everyone, please help me welcome our moderator for today's panel discussion, Sir Ed Cabagnot. Hello, Sir Ed. Magandang hapon po. Now, I'll introduce our panelists. So we have 3 panel members for our panel discussion this afternoon. Our first panelist is one of the founders of the Guerrilla Filmmaking Workshop and Festival that gave birth to the longest running independent film festival in Mindanao, the Mindanao Film Festival. He is the founder and present chair of the Mindanao Film and Television Development Foundation Incorporated and the owner of Alchemy of Vision and Light, the production company behind the cable channel Southspot Entertainment Network. So now let's welcome our first panelist, Sir Dax Cañedo. Hi, Sir Dax. Welcome po.
Hello. Good afternoon to everyone.
Our next panelist, previously a Rotary Youth Exchange student in the New Trier East High School in Illinois and a graduate of AB Philosophy from the University of the Philippines, Dalaman. He has over 35 years of work experience in television. He started out as a writer, video editor, director, producer in 1986, working on shows such as Penthouse Live, Coup by Special Arrangement, Tonight with Mercy, Oh No, It's Johnny, Maalaala Mo Kaya, Tonight with Dick and Carmi, Tatak Filipino, Ryan Musikahan, Okay Ka Ferico, and Star Drama Theater presents Nora, Lorna, La Propesa, Shasha before moving to the corporate side of the business in 1992. In 1994, he set up the ABS-CBN Film Archives and concurrently worked in ABS-CBN acquisitions prior to his assignment in Studio 23 as head of programming acquisitions and subsequently head of Studio 23, a post he held till 2008 before going back to ABS-CBN. From 2008 to 2015, he headed the content management group and film archives, as well as being assigned special projects head and chief of staff under the office of the president. Today, he oversees ABS-CBN's film restoration efforts under the Sagip Pelikultura banner campaign, using his knowledge and passion to not only save classic films from complete deterioration and destruction, but to preserve it for the study and appreciation of future generations. Everyone, that's all welcome. Our second panelist, Sir Leo Katigbak. Magandang hapon po, Sir Leo.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello po. And our last panelist is an assistant professor at the Kagawaran ng Pilipinolohiya of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines and the research chief of its Center on Labor and Industrial Relations Studies. She graduated from the University of the Philippines in Dalaman with a degree of BA Communication Research and MA Araling Pilipino. She is currently enrolled in Master in Library and Information Science under UP School of Library and Information Studies. She represents the Society of Filipino Archivists for Film, or SOFIA, and the National Committee on Archives of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, and currently serves as NCA National Secretary. She is presently the project manager of the NCCA PUP Philippine Documentary Heritage Archival Collection on the COVID-19 pandemic, a digital repository building initiative. She is an associate individual member of the Southeast Asia Pacific Audiovisual Archive Association since April 2017. She is also an individual member of the International Association of Sound and Audiovisual Archives since January 2019 and the Association of Moving Image Archivists since April 2021. She recently joined as member of the International Oral History Association. So let's all welcome Prof. Rosemary Roque. Hi, Ma'am Rose.
Hello, good afternoon.
Okay, so now that I've introduced already our moderator and our panelist, I'll now give the floor, the Zoom hosting to Sir Ed. Sir Ed.
Hello. Can you hear me, folks? Klaro
Yes
naman?
po.
Sige,
Yep
very
po.
good. Before we completely start, I just need to adjust something. Pasensya na kayo. Now, I think I'm more at home. Okay. So guys, it's always a pleasure to be a part of any event that celebrates Philippine cinema. And let me just say, ang ganda ng design ng Pelikultura this year, ha, folks? That we end this festival with a discussion of archiving. Because when you think of archiving, iniisip nyo na lagi na it's the past, it's the past. Of course not, guys. I mean, archiving is actually all about the future. And as you've heard from the biodata of our excellent panels now, their job is to ensure that as we move forward with our strides in Philippine cinema, hindi nakakalimutan the first steps that we took before. It's funny, guys. My first exposure to archiving was in 1982 when I was hired by the Experimental Cinema of the Philippines for its programming department. The ECP, it was a Marcos machinery, guys. Okay, so I'm not an apologist, and you know my color. Well, anyway, during that time, it was a fabulous effort on the part of the government because one of the arms of the Experimental Cinema of the Philippines was a full-blown archives, and the head then was Ernesto Di Pedro. And the lowest floor of the Manila Film Center served as the ideal, well, it's not so ideal kasi tabi ng dagat, di ba? Archives venue. Well, it was ideal in the sense that it housed a library, football field of chemical bath rooms and storage rooms, etc., etc. But having said that, kawawa naman ang Pilipinas because up to now, when you talk about film archiving, the biggest irony is the Philippines was one of the most dynamic cinemas in Asia at the beginning of the century. Tayo, ang state of archiving natin is purely aspirational. So, ang sanang mangyari sa usapan natin ngayon is to see what these excellent folks from different parts of the Philippines and from different sectors are doing. So, without much further ado, since kakagaling ko lang sa COVID, no? So, I'm just happy I survived, guys. So, please stay safe, everybody, no? Maganda yung order din ng discussions natin because we start with Dax Cañedo, one of our colleagues in Mindanao. Guys, talon-talo ng Mindanao ang Luzon, Visayas, and the NCR because Mindanao has about, at last count, at least 70 very vibrant independent festivals throughout the area. Leo, can you imagine? 70. At hindi lang sila yung nanonood ng sine every week, gumagawa ng mga pelikula yung mga bata. So that's just what you call this, tribute to how Filipinos are so creative everywhere, every inch of the Philippines. So si Dax Cañedo, he's actually 100 years old, guys. Nagpapabanat lang yan ng muka. He's one of the mavericks. I've known him for years and he manages the longest running indie film festival in Mindanao. And ang pag-uusapan niya are their efforts, with the help of other government agencies in trying to create an archives, well, mainly for for Mindanaoan films, but I'm sure it's extended to other places. Ang maganda namang kay Leo, kaya mahal na mahal ko itong tao na to, is because sa archiving, guys, trabaho yan dapat ng gobyerno, dude. No? But then, our government, unfortunately, the last best effort for archives happened during the Marcos era. Okay? And after that, parang napabayaan na. I used to work with the Cultural Center of the Philippines, and culture was never a priority of any government. So it took, a company like ABS-CBN with huge balls, as big as the province of Mindanao, to create an archives. No? So even though it was a private endeavor, kailangan na kailangan, because remember guys, ang kalaban ng pelikula is time. And I'm sure Leo will discuss that. So maganda ang parte ni Leo because he will tell us how this private organization managed it. Now the beauty with our last speaker, si Rose, is Rose came from academics, and her expertise was trying to save the many videos that were destroyed after the Marcoses were kicked out. Madami yun, Rose, hindi ba? Because I remember, I used to work for IME, so I knew that every kibot nila, bawat utot nila, kinukunan ng video by the NMPC, by Sandanya na, no? A lot of them were destroyed for whatever reason. No? And her job, when I first met her, was, this professor na ang passion niya is trying to retrieve all of these Marcos videos. And I really wish her luck because, the powers of darkness, dude, is very crazy. So guys, this is going to be a very exciting discussion. And please, list down your questions because I'm sure marami kayong gustong itanong with our experts. And I'm just here to help. So without much further ado, Dax, my 100-year-old friend, are you ready? Let's give him
I'm
a
ready.
big round of applause, guys. Come on. Palakpak naman kayo, dude.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Okay, so I guess I'll start by introducing, talking about what we do now in the Mindanao Film Archive. So let me share my screen so that you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so can everybody see my screen right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So the Mindanao Film Archive is a program of the Mindanao Film and Television Development Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization based in Davao City. And we started very recently, in 2018. And in fact, we were trained by one of my co-panelists right now, Miss Rose Roque. So thank you very much, Miss Rose, for helping us out in that and teaching us on what we need to do now on establishing this archive in Mindanao. So anyway, we have a sizable number of films already in our collection going back to 2003 because the Mindanao Film Festival started in 2003. And we work with other festivals here in Mindanao so we can, aside from showcasing their films in the festival, but we really plan on working with, we've already worked with some, but we haven't worked with everybody yet, but we really plan on working with the other festivals so that we can grow our collection every year. Okay, so our mission, the Mindanao Film Archive's mission, is to collect, preserve, and provide access to the moving images that capture the rich and diverse culture of Mindanao. So when I say moving images, that means we're not just closing our boundaries to films, narrative films, or documentary films. We actually want to accept, archival clips, video clips, or even new segments of anything that showcases the culture and heritage of Mindanao, even if it's like a clip of a style of weaving of a certain tribe or the way they hunt or whatever. If we have clips of those, we would like to include that in our archive as well. So I'd like to point out to the audience that the Mindanao Film Archive is a digital archive only. We do not maintain physical copies of films or of reels of films or videotapes or discs, simply because it's very expensive for us to do all that, and we don't have the space also to keep all those things in our archive. So it's purely digital. What we do is we maintain a server. That's where all the films are located, and we have a backup of that server, like a mirror server, located in a secondary location for data redundancy. So that's how we ensure that the films are safe. So I'd like to point out one aspect of our mission is to provide access to the films. The reason why that's what I'd like to stress here this afternoon is because oftentimes I get questions from people who are, whether they're in the film industry or they're independent filmmakers based in other regions. They're surprised that there are films from Mindanao, and especially those that are not into films now. They're surprised that films are being made in Mindanao, and they're surprised that there's so many festivals. They're so surprised that there's so many filmmakers and film enthusiasts and people that love the films. And so they ask me, where can we watch these films? Where can we see these films? And before, all I can say is, well, there are many festivals. You can just attend one of the festivals. But oftentimes it's hard for these people to attend festivals. It's either they don't have time, or the festival that they'd like to attend to is in a place that they cannot go to at that particular time. So I often get that question. So we wanted to focus on how to provide access to these films. If we have a collection of films, how do we show these films to the people that are interested in these films? So what we came up with was interactive kiosks. So this is how we started back in 2018. So our kiosks are inspired by the kiosks that you see in museums, such as the one that you see on screen right now, and libraries. So we wanted to give that kind of experience to people that are interested in the moving images of Mindanao. So we wanted something like this. Okay, so we wanted our kiosk to be easy to use, to showcase the films in the best quality possible. So we talked to the filmmakers back in 2018, I think, or 2017. We talked to them about this, and so we came up with the idea that the monitor of the kiosk should be at least the highest quality we could afford. So it has to be a 4K monitor. It has to be easy to use. So we wanted it to be touch screen as well. So, and you can still use a keyboard and mouse if you're more comfortable in using that. And oftentimes it's much easier to use a keyboard and mouse if you're looking at a big screen. So yeah, and so we came up with a concept, an art concept, this one. So we figured that at least people will be drawn to that kiosk, and people curious to it can just touch and go on and explore the different films in the archive. So with the help of the National Committee for Culture and the Arts, so thank you NCCA for helping us out on this. We got a grant so that we could build this vision, this dream that we had. So in 2018, we had our first kiosk. Well, of course, we had to build the back end, and eventually we built that kiosk on that same year, 2018. So here you have on screen our first kiosk we created in 2018, located in the Cinematheque Davao. And then the following year, we got another grant from NCCA, so we were able to create a kiosk in Cinematheque Nabunturan. And in 2020, even though there was a pandemic, we were able to build another kiosk with the help of NCCA again at the City Museum of Cagayan de Oro. So really, we envision to have kiosks in different parts of Mindanao, so that anybody who's interested can just go to any of these kiosks and watch the films and look at information about the films. And who knows, maybe one of these kiosks might appear in a museum in Metro Manila or somewhere in Visayas. So at least they could explore what have been created already in Mindanao. So I'm sure many of you are curious how the kiosk works. So I think what's best for me to do is to demonstrate how the kiosk works. So give me a second to show you. Okay. So this is how the kiosk will appear when you go to a kiosk. Um, so this is the interface of the kiosk. So there are films here, that featured films, so we can actually highlight certain films that we, for example, if it's Christmas, for example, we can highlight films that have themes of Christmas or happen during Christmas time. Or if it's February, we can focus on films about love. So we can highlight that here in featured. We have a new section. So every time we add new films in the archive, it appears here in the new section. So you can scroll through that. You can also go show all, and it'll show you all the new films. We also have a section for popular films. So these are the films that are most often clicked and watched by the users of the kiosks. So so if you're going to the kiosk and you really don't know what to do or what to search for, aside from using this, we have a browse function. So you can actually browse the archive by type, theme, or genre. So for example, you want to look for films about friendship. So we just select friendship, and films about friendship will appear. If you want to look for films about love, films about love will appear there. Okay. So if, for example, you want a film about friendship, where is friendship? Friendship in the, let's say, documentary genre, there you have a film about friendship and it's a documentary. Or you can just select all and choose documentary, and documentary films will appear. So it's really easy to use, and it's very easy for people curious about films to explore. The kiosk is really easy to use. Or you can actually search for specific things in the kiosk. So for example, I can search for Fiola. Just use Mr. Bagani Fiola as an example. So if I search for Fiola, these are the films wherein Mr. Fiola has been involved in will appear. Now, this is not all. Now, these are only films that are currently in this particular demo. So he can be Mr. Fiola. You can even narrow down the search to, for example, where Mr. Fiola was a crew member. Or you can even narrow it down to when Mr. Fiola was seems my internet is a little slow, but anyway, you can narrow it down to specific parts. So you can narrow it down to crew. You can even search by year. You can search rights holders. You can search by genre. Even acknowledgement. I'll try my name. Okay, there. So you'll see only one film that I'm involved in. Okay, so when you click an item here, you can actually see details about the film. There's a description about the film, the year, the duration, the type, the genre, place of origin, languages used in the film, aspect ratio. You can see credits. There I am. There's also supplemental information and supplemental media if there are, and any related films. So it's actually very, very easy to use, and it's very powerful. So if you're researching different kinds of, researching about films about certain themes, you can use this kiosk. So we really envision this as a tool for educators, for students, researchers, or anybody interested or curious about Mindanao film. So if you want to watch the film, just click watch, and it should appear here. Of course, in this demo, I will not show the film, but it will appear there in the kiosk. And then you can continue researching. Okay, so that's the kiosk. If you have any questions later, I will continue. I will just answer those questions later. So anyway, I will continue with my talk. It's about to end anyway. So what have we learned throughout these 3-4 years now, especially during the time of the pandemic? So anyway, what we learned is that other parts of Mindanao still don't have access to the film. So we have 3 locations. But for example, what if somebody in Coronadal wants access to these films or wants to watch certain films? Of course, going to Davao is the closest, but it's still 3-4 hours away. So it's very difficult for them, still difficult for them now. Another thing that we learned is that we need to bring some features of the kiosks online, because like I said, it's hard for students, for example, especially during the pandemic, to go out, and go to the kiosks and get access to these films. Or if you just want certain information about the films and you can't find it online, where do you find it? How do you still have to go to the kiosk? So it's it's medyo difficult na. So we felt that to make it easy, we needed to bring some of the features at least online. So moving forward, what we plan on doing is to continue building more kiosks in other parts of Mindanao. The more kiosks, the better. I'd like to point out that some filmmakers are not comfortable with having their films online. So of course, having them only in the kiosk is much better. And since it's located in a safe place and it's usually in a place where there are staff that can assist or that can monitor, at least they know that their films are safe. No? So we still plan on building new kiosks. Hopefully NCCA will give us a grant, Miss Rose. Second, another thing that we should do now is to make the database available online. So that if you're doing the search that I did a while ago, you can actually do that online. And if you want to watch the film, then that's the time you go to the kiosk. And hopefully, if some filmmakers will allow their film to be viewed online, maybe it's a very old film or it's something that they really want to show online, then when people click that watch button, they hopefully will be able to actually watch the films. And if, for example, the filmmaker or rights holders don't want the film to be seen online, then we'll just put up a window or pop-up window that will say that it's not available online, but they can watch the films in the kiosks located in these areas. So something like that. Okay, so that's all I have for you this afternoon. If you want to help out in the archive, you can email us. If you want to have your films included in the archive, you can also email us. When we did this, we're doing this really slowly, basically because we don't have that much funds to do this, and we're a private institution. Everybody that works with us are volunteers. So if you want to volunteer and help, we would really appreciate it. And like I said, we're doing this slowly, so everything isn't set up right away. We had to build it slowly. We had to get the basics right. We had to make sure eventually that we would have redundancy with the data so that it's secure. So what we're doing is we're getting films from the at first from the festivals here in Mindanao, but there are lots of films made by Mindanaoan filmmakers that were not screened in local film festivals, but are really noteworthy and really represents the filmmaking in Mindanao. Like films, for example, by Arnel Mardocchio, by Teng Mga Sakan, and many more filmmakers that we don't have in our collection but are out there. And we have a curator, Mr. J. Rosas, and although we haven't started yet, but we're hoping, since we feel relatively confident now as compared to back in 2018, we're hoping to approach them so that their films can be archived by us, and they have the choice now of having the films being screened in the kiosks, or if maybe they have a certain short film that they will allow to be screened online, then hopefully you can do that. Or even if they just want the film to be archived and protected and secured, we can do that as well. So that's what we do in the Mindanao Film Archive, and I hope that other groups or institutions can do that in other parts of the Philippines as well, because it's really important. It's really important. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
Bravo, Dax. No, I was able to witness in 2019 when you invited me for the Ngilngig Horror Film Festival, the first kiosk, and it's pretty amazing. At nakakatuwa na there's also one now in Nabunturan. And you created one in CDO. I'm sure nagtatampo yung mga taga Sambuanga, but hindi pa sila nabibigyan, no? But this is such an admirable task, and hopefully nga you are able to set up a template para our friends in Visayas, and in other parts of Luzon can come out with something. But guys, everybody who's in this talk, no? If you notice, one of the things that sila Dax need to gain is trust. Because kung filmmaker ka rin, and you know that the Philippines is the Jack Sparrow spot in Asia, if you know what I mean, diba? Parang not everybody just wants to be watched. So a lot of Filipino filmmakers, of course, wants to protect their intellectual properties. So isa sa pinaka-importanting hurdles that archival organizations need to break through is that trust thing. Right, Dax?
Yeah, we really encountered that problem. Now we had to earn the trust of the filmmakers. Even now, we still don't have that with everybody. So we want them to know that we're here. What we're doing is important. We respect their rights, and we will protect those rights as well. So, but we feel that what we're doing here is important, not for now, not just for now, but really for the future, and for others that are really interested. What we want this to inspire other filmmakers, to inspire people of Mindanao, for them to go to a facility like this and be able to see their own culture, to see a reflection of what they do in life, and the other stories that we have. I think it's really important. It's very valuable. So I hope they could appreciate that, and I hope that we get the support and the trust that is important. No, it has to go both ways, and I hope that we maintain that trust as well.
Very good. And I think you guys are knowing how efficient you all are. I think before Sir Leo talks, you have a video, Leo, that you're sharing.
Yes.
Sige.
It's a celebration of our first decade.
Sige, great. So are we going, can we play it now?
Yep.
Ready na ba tayo?
Yes po, yes sir.
Sige.
Maasa parang araw ay sikat sa atin ng mabuting kapalaran.
Nais kong makarating sa dulo ng bahaghari. Kasama ka tayo ay hihiling na sana ay mangyari. Basta ng buwan humuhudyat ako para sa'yo. Tingin ng hangin, pumupulong ako. Sa'yo ang puso ko, walang takdang panahon ang susundin ito magpakailanman ang siyang nais. Yan lang ang panalangin ko.
Pwede ba makausap ang asawa mo na asawa ko, na asawa ng bayan?
Nais kong maglakbay sa walang hanggang daan. Di na baling magpakalayo-kayo't kasama ka naman. Tingin ng tipok, sumisigaw ako.
Ang saya, no? Para tayong nanonood ng sine.
Sa'yo ang puso ko, walang takdang panahon ang susundin ito magpakailanman ng siyang
tayong nililingon na kasaysayan. Iligtas natin mula sa pagkalimot ng tuluyan ang ating mga magagandang pelikula noon.
Ikaw lang ang nais ko.
Bravo, Leo. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Nakakaantik ng puso. And I'm sure everybody at this point would like to hear what the plans are of ABS-CBN archives, especially because your favorite president did something very funny last year. So Leo, take the floor.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ed. Teka, sige. Share screen. Ayan. Okay. See. Okay, magandang hapon sa inyong lahat and thank you for joining us on a Saturday na if ever pwedeng natutulog kayo, nagsisiesta o lumalabas kasi binabaan na yung alert level. But thank you for joining us. This is going to be quick and hopefully it's going to be interesting. But before I go into the full, into discussing the plans, I guess it's important to contextualize ano rin yung talagang ginagawa namin because more often than not, pag may nakakausap kami, nakakaligtaan rin nila yung backstory na yon na may importanteng dugtong doon sa ginagawa namin. So ang ABS-CBN sa pelikula or ang ABS-CBN archives, ang primary function niyan ay yung archiving, yung preservation, restoration, nandun yun sa isang side. Pero nung isineset up namin to, ang feeling namin, hindi pwedeng yun lang yung ginagawa namin kasi anong saysay nito kung hindi naman mapapanood ng mga tao or ma-generate yung kanilang interest in that. Kaya nabuo rin yung Sagip Pelikula Advocacy, which is to encourage people to watch the movies. So ito, ganito yung vault namin, yung proseso ng pag-scan at saka pagre-restore ng mga pelikula. Pagkatapos, isang background lang, no? Kasi laging nasasabi na kawawa ang Philippine cinema kasi ang daming pelikulang hindi nagsusurvive. So ito lang yung more or less background yan. Maraming pelikulang nagawa. Pero from the start in 1919 until about 2012, ang mga pelikula ay shot on film. After that, or actually a little earlier, nag-umpisa na yan yung digital. In fact, Star Cinema was one of the last studios to actually still shoot on film. Yung mga The Mistress, Way Back Home, yun yung mga huling pelikulang still shot on film. After that, puro digital na. So makikita nyo, lalo na during the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even the 60s, very, very prolific tayo. Pero syempre, nangyari ang martial law, nangyari ang Asian economic crisis, nag-change yung technology, kaya medyo nagbago rin yan. Now, bakit ba ang konti ng mga pelikula natin nagsusurvive? Kung tatanda nyo, nung umpisang pelikula, yan yung tinatawag, ang ginagamit ay ang tinatawag natin na nitrate cellulose, na ginagamit until the 1950s. Ang problema lang sa kanya, mabilis siya masunog. So in fact, kung papakinggan mo ang kwento ng mga studio dito at sa ibang bansa, kahit noon maraming nagkakameron ng sunog because lalo na sa weather natin, mas nagko-combust ito. Napalitan siya ng acetate. Ang problema naman sa acetate, lalo na dun sa inyo na nakahawak pa ng actual film stock, di ba ang acetate siya yung nangangamoy, yung tinatawag na may vinegar syndrome. So habang nag-decay siya, nag-aamoy suka siya. Now, towards the 90s and upwards, naging polyester na siya. Mas stable ang polyester, kaya lang hindi rin siya masyadong gusto ng iba kasi mas matigas siya. Mas mabilis siyang nakakasira rin sa projector. Pero basically, ito yung mga material na ginamit sa pelikula. But the bulk of the movies that actually need saving were shot on nitrocellulose and acetate. Ngayon, ito, ang itsura pag halimbawa, nagde-decay na siya in cellulose at saka sa acetate. So it's either nabubuo siya o nag-vinegar syndrome siya o yung lahat ng ibang depekto. Pag hindi ideal ang preservation conditions, ganito ang nangyayari sa pelikula. So yung mga ibang nagtago lamang ng pelikula na hindi naka-aircon, halimbawa sa isang bodega na napaka-init, na napaka-humid, pag binuksan na nila yung lata, minsan ganito na ang nagiging itsura kung nag-survive man yung print. Ngayon, napapakinig nyo ang words na preservation, restoration, at saka revisionism. Basically, yun yung ginagalawan ng ABS-CBN Film Restoration. Preservation, sisiguraduhin mo nang hindi maluluma o hindi mag-deteriorate further. Restoration, itatry mong ibalik yung pelikula doon sa kondisyon na original na gusto ng creators. Ngayon, yung revisionism is pushing restoration a little further. So kung halimbawa may pagkakamali o kaya may mga issues, halimbawa hindi clear ang music rights, may mga babaguhin ka, doon pumapasok ang revisionism. At ang ginagawa namin, kung nakikita nyo yung aming mga ads, digitally restored and digitally remastered kasi digital ang ginagalawan niyan. So, itong sa mga susunod na slide, makikita nyo na ganito ang nagiging itsura ng mga films pagkatapos niyang ma-restore digitally. Nung una, medyo ayaw pa namin ang digital restoration, kaya lang ang digital restoration mas maraming nagagawa na hindi nagagawa sa analog restoration. Lalo na in our case, na hindi ganun kagaganda ang mga naiiwan na prints. Ngayon, ano ba ang nangyari nung huling taon? Nagka-lockdown, nagkameron ng COVID, March 16. May 5, na-deny na ang franchise ng ABS. At August 31, yan yung last day ng karamihan ng empleyado ng ABS-CBN na after that ay mga wala ng trabaho. In fact, pati ang ABS-CBN Film Archives ay nasaraduhan na, kaya lang nakiusap kami at ginastify namin na ito pa rin yung kailangan protektahan ng assets ng ABS. So from 14 people, pinayagan na 5 kaming maiiwan. So yung dating ginagawa ng 14 na katao, 5 na lang ang gumagawa ngayon. Kaya mas hirap rin kami. Oops. So ano bang nalaman namin dyan? So dapat mag-strategize kami, mag-realign at mag-prioritize. So yung Sagip Pelikula, malaking component yan ang restoration. Hindi na namin nagagawa ang restoration ngayon kasi tumigil yan last year. Ngayon siguro sasabihin nyo, bakit ano pa yung mga pinipremiere nyo? You have to remember na ang restoration ay matagal na proseso. So yung sa yun, 1 year in advance ang aming kalendaryo. So yung mga nakikita nyo, yun yung mga natapos namin ng 2019 at 2020. So pero ngayon medyo paubos na rin siya. So since hindi na namin kayang gawin muna ang restoration, ang Sagip Pelikula ay nagfo-focus na lang archiving, protecting what we have, at yung advocacy. Yun yung mas nakikita nyo sa television at sa aming mga ibang efforts. Pagkatapos makikita nyo na dati lagi namin sinasabi digitally restored, digitally remastered, ngayon, sinasabi na namin digitally scanned at digitally enhanced kasi ito na lamang ang kaya naming gawin sa loob ng ABS-CBN. Ito ang isang example ng ginagawa namin sa ABS. Ito ay Prinsipe Tinyoso. Hindi pristine ang restoration, pero makikita nyo na malaki pa rin ang improvement. The fact na ito'y na-scan, ibig sabihin nito, malamang mas malinaw pa rin ito kaysa nung unang ipinalabas ito noong 1954. Mas malutong pa rin siya ngayon. Pero syempre, noon wala yung mga water damage na yan, wala yung discoloration na yan. So kita nyo pa rin ang difference. Mas malinaw pa rin siyang mapapanood ngayon. So sa grading, naayos rin namin kahit paano ang kulay, na ibabalik namin ang ibang detalye, natatanggal namin yung parang nagbabakil yung material. So, tinutuloy namin ang advocacy. So, nagsasalita pa rin ako in front of classes kung may nag-iimbita. Recently, yung kami mga ibang mga archivists dito sa Pilipinas nagpulong-pulong. Doon ko rin nakasama si Dax at saka si Rose. So, tinatry namin na ituloy pa rin kahit papaano yung aming ginagawa. Ang nakakatuwa naman, ang mga artista ay patuloy pa rin sa suporta sa aming mga ginagawa. You have to remember, wala na silang obligasyon na i-promote itong mga sine na ginawa nila 20, 30, 40 years ago. Pero pag nalaman nilang nare-restore ito, nakakatuwa naman na game sila na ibigay ang kanilang oras, ang kanilang pangalan para mapalaganap ang advokasya ng Sagip Pelikula. Pagkatapos, sinusubukan rin ng ABS-CBN na pumunta dun sa mga platforms kung nasaan ang mga kabataan, kung saan mas maraming nanonood kasi wala rin nga sinihan ngayon. Ang pinapasukan namin ay ang social media. Ang Facebook page namin, kung makikita nyo, nag-umpisa kami ng 362 followers noong 2014. Ang laki ng inalaki noong 2020, pero in the 16 months or 18 months, since last year, makikita nyo more than double siya. So nakakatuwa naman na nadi-discover pa rin ang ABS-CBN Film Restoration sa social media. Ang napansin rin namin, karamihan ng aming mga nanonood sa amin ay kababaihan. Pero pag bigla kaming nagkakameron ng live feed, katulad nung halimbawa ipinapalabas namin ang mga Prinsipe Tinyoso, ang mga Ibong Adarna at ang ibang mga pelikula, biglang mas maraming kalalakihan ang nanunood. So I guess it may just be the habit, pero nakakatuwa na nakukuha namin ang kabataan in that mid-range at ang hati ng genders. Hindi lang sasabihin na, may gusto lang ng lumang pelikula, puro babae. Kasi lalo na pag mga live, makikita nyo na marami sa kalalakihan ang nanunood rin sa amin. So ito yung mga dalawang pelikula na marami-raming mga taong nanood. Ngayon, ginagamit rin namin ang mga plataforma ng ABS-CBN, pati na rin mga plataforma na kaugnayan ng ABS-CBN o nakikipag-transaction sila like Pop TV at mga Netflix, Amazon, Apple TV, para mas magkaroon ng maraming venues na mapanooran ang mga pelikula na restored. Ang isa rin sa malaking ginawa namin ngayon ay nagsimula yan because of the pandemic, nakitie up kami sa ktx.ph. So ngayon, ang KTX, ang home ng mga restored classics, bukod sa Amazon at saka sa i1TFC at saka sa Apple TV, pero yung mga karamihan ng premiere namin, dito namin ginagawa. So kahit kailan mo tingnan, lagi kaming may ongoing festival. So nag-umpisa yan sa Inagaw at ito yung mga sumunod na mga sine na na-feature namin. Ang kahuli-hulihan ay hanggang kailan kita mamahalin. Sa direksyon ni Olive Lamasa na pinagbidahan ni Richard Gomez at saka ni Lorna Tolentino. Pero makikita nyo, it's a good cross-section of older movies and newer movies. Ang isa pang nakakatuwa, since hindi namin nagawa yung mga ibang plano at minsan pag premiere naman hindi mo rin ito nagagawa, nag-decide kami na para mas may hatak rin at para mas may value added sa mga manonood, we try to invite the people who wrote, directed, acted or worked in the movie in some capacity para magbigay ng background dito sa mga pelikula. So kung iisipin mo siya, hindi lang siya kwentuhan. Pero ang pinagkukwentuhan ay kung paano nagawa ang pelikula. So kung mahilig ka sa pelikula, yung mga mapapakinig nyo dito, a lot of it has never been heard. It's not even been featured in the tabloids. And the nice thing is, especially because if it's you're talking of older movies, people are actually more objective and more candid saying the things that happened during the production. Kaya may nag-away ang producer at ang director, may nag-walk out, and not on the chismis level. Kasi ikukwento rin nila doon sa mga pangyayaring yun kung paano nakatulong yun o kung paano naapektuhan nun ang paggagawa ng pelikula. So makikita nyo, hindi rin itulak kabigin ang mga naging panauhin namin dito sa mga show na to. Ngayon, yung dito sa baba, sa'yo lamang, hindi pa yan napapalabas. Ipapalabas yan towards the end of October or the first week of November na in time for Christopher De Leon's birthday. Now, makikita nyo dun sa music video kanina, napakaraming images ni Boyet. Kasi naman, literally parang 50 years ang pinasok ng kanyang career from the 1970s until now. So ang feeling lang namin, it would be nice to have a one-on-one with Boyet para naman for somebody of his stature, mapag-usapan niya yung iba't ibang pelikulang ginawa niya at iba-ibang direktor na nakatrabaho niya. So hopefully this is something that you will watch out for. Nagpo-promote rin kami dyan. So recently meron kami ng provocative classics. So yung mga medyo risque na konti o mas sensitive ang material, iginupo namin. At napansin namin na kesa nakapasok lamang siya, pag meron kang mga marketing handle, mas madali ring nakaka-relate ang mga tao para panuuri nila. Ang isa sa pinaka-pride and joy ko is nabuo namin ang The Movies of the Experimental Cinema of the Philippines. Nung inumpisahan namin yan ang film restoration, nung mag-uusap kami ni Mrs. Concho, nagawa na namin ng Himala, nagawa na rin namin ng Oro Plata Mata. Kaya lang malaki ang problema ng misteryo sa Tuwa at Soltero at nasabi pa nga siya na unrestorable na siya dahil napakasama ng kondisyon ng mga material. So, itong dalawang pelikulang ito, inantay namin, bumaba ang cost ng technology, magkameron ng additional technology para magawa. So it took 7 years for both Misterio and Soltero to be restored. So ang sabi naman, panahon, mag-aantay, that's the only thing naman we can do. Hindi naman namin pwedeng ipilit noon. So finally, this year, nabuo na namin, nakumpleto na namin sila. The restoration of both movies were completed in 2019 and early 2020. Pero yun yung may mga hahabulin ka pa, na yun yung ginawa namin until this year. So kung gusto nyo mapanood ang mga premiadong pelikula ng Experimental Cinema of the Philippines, KTX is the only venue where you will be able to see all four. Ngayon, recently, nung September 21, pinakita rin namin ang mga political movies. So ngayon, election next year. So ano ba ang mga pelikula na medyo nagsasalaysay ng history ng Pilipinas o ng identity ng Pilipino. So, ganito kami noon, bata-bata paano ka ginawa, 3 taong walang Diyos, misa isang gamo-gamo, dekada 70, iba't ibang aspeto during the history of the Philippines na mapapanood mo ano ba ang pananaw ng Pilipino during that time, ano ba ang mga problema na hinaharap ng Pilipino at that time. So, dito, pwede rin panuorin ng mga tao at ongoing pa rin ito. Tapos, mag-Halloween. So, syempre, sino bang hindi gustong magtakutan? So, ngayon, meron din kami nito sa KTX. So, at any given point, there are about 30 to 40 movies na restored na pwede nyo panuorin sa KTX under ABS-CBN Restoration. Marami pang ibang pwedeng panuorin sa KTX, pero sana pag pumunta kayo doon, silipin nyo yung mga pelikula under ABS-CBN Restoration. Sa Apple naman, proud na proud kami na as of yesterday, 186 titles na in 64 countries minimum ang pwedeng mapanood ng mga tao. At ito ay mix ng bago at mga restored movies. Ngayon, yung nakita nyo video kanina, celebration yan ng 10th anniversary ng ABS-CBN Film Restoration. Ang una namin pinalabas na pelikula ay Himala noong 2012. Pero ang film restoration, dahil sa tagal ng proseso, ay totoong nag-umpisa ng 2011 after we cleared everything na kailangan namin gawin. So, proud kami na ang 2021 is our 10th decade of working at natutuwa kami yung kantang napakinig nyo kanina ay composition ni Jonathan Manalo at kinanta ni Eric Santos. Sa totoo lang, 2018 pa yan dapat. Nung napakinig namin yung kanta, sabi namin baka pwede namin gamitin for sa pelikula. Hindi pa for our 10th year. Pero nagkameron ng problema. Dapat 2019 ilo-launch pero nagkameron ng problema. Tapos 2020 nasaraduhan na kami. So, ang nangyari, urong siya ng urong hanggang tumugma na siya sa 10th anniversary. So, sana nagustuhan nyo kanina yung video na it encapsulates all of the movies that we have restored so far from 1939 until 2012. Ito naman ang mga susunod naming hopefully magagawa ngayong medyo nagbabago na ang ihip ng hangin, at least in as far as COVID is concerned, medyo nagluluwag na. Sana maka-resume na rin kami ulit ng restoration. Pero sabi nga ni Ed, mukhang I guess until things change, medyo mahirap pa yan. Ang pagbabalik sa cinema, although medyo nakakatakot pa yan. Tapos nakikita nyo ang aming mga posters, di ba? Marami nagsasabi napakaganda. So one of the things that we actually wanted to do for our 10th year was have this book of posters also. Sana rin ay maituloy namin ang mga pre-show at ang mga iba-ibang reunion na ginagawa namin para napapag-usapan din itong mga classic movies na ginawa. Sana rin matuloy ang Campus Roadshows kahit via Zoom. So far, medyo may nagagawa pa rin naman kami pero hindi pa rin katulad ng dati before the pandemic. Matagal na rin namin minimithi na mabuo yung restoration documentary. Itong mga premiere namin, itong mga nire-restore namin mga pelikula, maraming naging usap-usapan dito. Maraming artista, maraming manunulat, maraming editors, production designers, director, producers na nagsalita. At we are hoping na lahat ng ito ay mapapagsama-sama namin para pag-usapan ang restoration roadshow o ang naging daan ng restoration in the last 10 years. Maraming kwento dito na mapapakinig nyo for the first time dito kung magagawa yung documentary. Sayang nga sa ibang bansa ang dami-daming libro on how movies are created, how movies are restored. Dito sa atin halos wala. Kahit nag-aaral ka sa universidad, unless makausap mo ang mga gumawa ng pelikula, hindi mo yan mapapakinig. Yun ang pinlano namin doon sa mga restoration pre-shows at sana yun rin ang mapapalabas namin sa restoration documentary pag ito'y nagawa na. Tapos, syempre naghahanap pa rin kami ng mas maraming avenues para ma-screen ang mga restored classics. So doon po nagtatapos ang aking presentasyon. Alam niyo naman ang nangyari sa ABS-CBN pero kahit lahat nangyari iyon, ginagawa pa rin yun ng ABS-CBN in the service of the Filipino worldwide. Ito ay serbisyo hindi para sa tiyan, hindi para sa balita, kundi para sa isip at sa puso. Maraming salamat po.
Bravo Leo. Amazing. My biggest takeaway from your beautiful, passionate talk is archiving is magastos. It involves a lot of capital investment because primarily Ang pinaka-importante sa archiving is the technology behind it. The difference between scanning, etc., etc. Sabi ko nga earlier, Leo, hindi ba? Dapat gobyerno yan eh. In India, I had the luck of visiting the Pune Film and Television Institute in Pune, near Bombay, no? Lahat ng pelikula ng India, they were able to preserve in 35 because of the laki ng porsyento nila sa bawat ticket sa India napupunta sa archives. Dito sa Pilipinas, dapat gawa ng gobyerno. It took a private sector company like yours. At thank God, no? I mean, you guys know how to run a corporation. Pero sana nga one of these days, there will be a dovetailing between your private efforts and a more enlightened government, Leo. Because magastos ang archiving. I know that because I've been in the experimental cinema of the Philippines archives, and it's no joke. And thank you very much for your continued efforts. Despite the fact na paborito kayo ng presidente nyo. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our last speaker. I'm sure marami kayong mga tanong, so please keep it in your pocket for Dax and Leo. But I'm sure si Rose is always a provocative speaker. Provocative pa ba? Well, let's see. So let's hear it from the side naman of, I think, government, no, Leo? You'll be talking more on our efforts. Sige,
Rose.
bravo. Miss Rose Roque, palakpakan natin siya.
Okay. Ayan, magandang hapon ating lahat. Mapalo kayo ngayon, lalo na yung pag-uusapan natin tungkol nga sa audiovisual archiving. So, ito yung hinanda ko para ngayon. So, audiovisual archiving initiatives. Yan, dahil naman ang ating panel ay tungkol sa film archiving initiatives. So, ito the alternative filmmakers. Matuturing kong ito, yung aking panggagalingan ay ang indie alternative audiovisual archiving advocacy na do-it-yourself ang malaking bahagi. So, oops, mukhang may nag-skip akong slide. Dapat hindi nyo kagad nakita yan. Sorry. May nangyari sa aking Yan. Ang galing, no? Pasensya na kayo, hindi ko siya pinufull yung PowerPoint kasi nag-hang yung anyway, so at least naayos ko, sorry. So ang una ko i-share sa inyo sa initiative ay ang Community Archiving Workshop Manila, the Audiovisuals, Asia Visions Audiovisual Collection. May video kaugnay nito.
Good morning, everyone. In behalf of all the organizers, we would like to thank everyone for coming here. So thank you very much. We're going to be here for an entire day. We're going to have fun. We're going to learn things. We're going to be able to do a lot of things for Ipan Foundations and the Asia Visions Collection. Rix has been working on the Asia Visions Collection for almost a decade or more.
Archives are part of our collective memory. Asia Visions doesn't 100% cover all of what happened in the Philippines during the period that they tried documenting what happened, but definitely it's one block or two blocks contributing to that societal collective memory. So it's about the fight against historical revisionism, about collective amnesia or social justice when the archive is done.
We're putting out the barcodes for the labels. It's pretty good. Cool.
Monday and Tuesday. So here we are inspecting a tape, checking its condition, making sure if there's nothing wrong with it, or if there is something wrong with it, figuring out what is the problem with the tape, and then we're recording the vital information from the tape into our database here.
And we're taking notes of the conditions of the case and the housing as well as the tape, and noting down everything that is everything from the title, if there is a title,
The title of our list that was created basically filmography and research done by However, if they come up on a date with a title that is not part of the title of our list, they call it out. Rose goes there, verifies that it's a new title. It's a new title that goes on the board for everyone.
That old idea of archivists as neutral gatekeepers in hard to access institutions. I liked that this just was a completely different, and I had no idea that this world existed.
Yes, I think it's you don't have to get alone.
See how quickly we can marshal ourselves to get something done. Really. And everybody took on what they need to take on. So you're going to go out there and do good work. I know. Privilege for me to be there.
So, ayan. Stop share ko muna saglit para makita ko kayo. Yung pinakita kong video, nagawa siya noong April 2017. 4 na taon na. Nagkaroon ng conference yung SEPAVA, so Southeast Asia Pacific Audiovisual Archives Association. And si Bono, yung isa sa nakita natin. Siya yung nakaisip kasi sa NYU siya graduate, sa NYU MIAP. At naisip niya na ma-jumpstart yung Asia Visions Collection na alam niyo part ng thesis ko para yun nga makatulong sa archiving ng collection. Ang formula kasi noon sumusunod nga doon sa formula ng NYU MIAP and the yung AMIA model of community archiving na may professionals like for a conference, isang araw man yon, pero they're all here. Sayang yung expertise nila and nag-pool ng mga local volunteers and yung man hours nakatulong dahil marami. Yung magagawa ng isang tao ay marami-rami kumpara. I mean, yung isang tao lang ang gagawa. Mas maraming magagawa nung kahit isang araw lang pero with professionals and local volunteers nga na matuturuan. So from there, yan, isa yan sa gusto ko lang i-highlight kasi yung tagal ng advocacy for audiovisual archiving for the collection na pwede nating sasabihin from the margins, from reflecting yung mga experiences ng mga marginalized. Ayun nag-culminate siya dun sa effort ng community archiving workshop. And tuloy ko lang yung ilan sa gusto kong i-share. Yung main ko, if fast forward ko na, yung isang current project ay na archiving initiative din masasabi, hindi man yung nasa isang fixed physical archives, yan, ay yung efforts ng CAP, yung Concerned Artists of the Philippines Memory Project. So, konting background, yan, promote na rin, no? So, org siya ng mga artists, musicians, writers, filmmakers, culture workers from various disciplines. Na ang orientation is yun, nationalist, people-oriented arts and culture. And, it's just highlighting when it started in 83, diba? Yung advocacy for fighting for the rights of artists and cultural workers nga in the Philippines related to dun sa kinuha ng Board of Censors nung time na yun. Kumilos sila yun, this prompted the artists to organize a massive rally against that move, censorship at the Liwasang Bonifacio, carrying the slogan "Free the Artist," which will be later organized to CAP, yung sinasabi ng mga seniors namin. Pero yun, sa amin mas tinatawag siya na CAP. So anyway, so yan yung konting background sa CAP, at kung titingnan nyo siya sa CCP Encyclopedia, yan yung isang, yan, makikita nyo na entry tungkol dun sa organization. So I think we can access the encyclopedia free for a month, and mura lang yung subscription. Naki-promote ako. Pero ayan, marami tayong malalaman mula sa encyclopedia ng Cultural Center na ginawa na nga nilang accessible online. And so now to the memory project. So in 2018, kung maaalala natin, noong October 2018, may nilist na 18 universities na mainly nagsiscreen lang naman ng martial law themed films, tinawag na mga, yun nga, destabilizers, meron daw destabilization plot against the government. So itong McCarthyist red tagging na ito ang tinry na tapatan nitong memory projects nga na archival in nature. So ito yung ang balik tanaw lang noong October 2018 nung nagsalita ang film arts community against that red tagging of movie screenings and universities. And so, yung tuwing may memory project yung CAP, ito yung usual spill sa start ng event. So, the idea of holding memory projects arose as a response to the state's malicious red tagging of schools and film and RT in late 2018. Stop the Attacks became a common call for individuals and organizations such as CAP and Respond and Break the Silence Against the Killings, or SBAC, who all reflected on the power of the arts in making and unraveling of our country. So we resolved to continue engaging with archives, objectives, narratives, and testimonies of the dark times in our history to ground our struggle as we call on citizens and artists to dare, struggle, and fight back. So in remembering that is reflective, discursive, and deeply engaged with the past. In doing so, we find strength to understand the present and imagine a better future taking flight. So yung unang-unang memory project was September 2020. Nag-pitch ang CAP sa Activista Film Festival at ito yung unang napalabas. So yung the politics of detention. So Memory Project 01 is this film. So it's a 1983 documentary about political prisoners still languishing in jail. And the next memory project, February of this year, is the document maker, si Chris Nash, noong 89. At kung tatanungin nyo, gusto nyo mapanood pa, pwede kasi pupunta lang kayo sa page ng CAP. Medyo ano nga lang kayo search. Kasi hindi pa namin siya na-organize na one-stop shop lang na nandun na kagad makita yung memory project. Pero nasa page siya ng CAP. So, syempre, promote ko na rin. Like nyo na. Dito yung nalagay ko pala 35,000. Nasa 37 naman. So, anyway, ito yung Memory Project 03. Casa Tour, docu na ginawa ng 84, thesis siya ng grupo ng yung anak ni Casa Tour, si Nona Ocampo, yun, kadalawa niya pang kaklase. Thesis film nila ito sa Lasal. So naipalabas din namin siya, Memory Project 03 noong April 4 nga. Ano yan, ilang araw bago yung birthday ni Casa Tour. Tapos Memory Project, so 03 yan. So yung 04 naman, yung Sabangan, yung docu na 1983 docu about yung Kaliwakanan Dam. At yun pala, tuwing after ng Memory Project screening, mayroong talkback. Ang formula sa talkback, it's either yung filmmakers, yung nga primary sources, yung hanggat na maaari na yung filmmakers, producer man, or yung director or crew, basta sila na gumawa, or yung tinatawag natin sa academia mga content expert. So yung topic, kunyari sa Sabangan, meron kaming naimbita na IP leader na dumagat. So ganun yung mga example ng mga nasa panel. So ayan, bilis lang na sample. Ito kasi dinownload na namin sa page ng CAP kasi though nandun siya para ma-access nyo ng public, pero syempre hindi natin alam kung ano mangyari, like nung nakaraan, di ba, na down yung yung Facebook, at least, at saka as yung archival principle na safe, yung meron kakagad kopya para yan. So, ayan yung una. Usually yan, gumagaya kami sa ginagawa nila nung mga nagre-restore. Yan, yung whether international or yung yan, kanyari efforts nila, Leo na nalagyan nila ng OBB. So anyway, hindi ko naman siya ipa-play ng buo, pero ang point ko lang, yan, pinapakita ko lang. Ayun, tapos effort namin yung maglagay ng subtitles. So, ako bilang yung programmer, curator niyan, ako yung pumipili. Nasa akin din actually yung mga kopya, based yung mula yun sa pag nahanap or na-research ko. So, ipapatranscribe yan, tapos transcribe, tapos translate. Kunyari, ito yung sa The Politics of Detention, ang tumulong sa translation work dito ay si Anna. Si Anna Erickson na siyang isang student siya that time. Ngayon graduate kasi sa Anna sa San Sebastian dun sa EXE. So, ayun, siya yung nagtulong sa amin dyan. So, it depende sa mga tumutulong kung, ayun, so plugging, baka, yun, meron dyan ma-recruit, diba? So, anyway, ito yon. Tapos, sa dulo, magkakaroon ng talkback nga. So, wait. Ito yatang kopya na inaipasok ko, walang talkback. Sorry. Anyway, ayan, yung credits yan, si Anna. So, anyway, so yan yung film mismo pala, hindi ko na anyway, ito, yan, yung screenshot mula dun sa talkback mismo. Ito yung si Fide Slim dun sa Memory Project 1. Tapos ito yung si Chris Nash kasama namin sa Memory Project 2, yung behind the scene na. Tapos, ayun nga, sabi ko nga, punta lang kayo sa cap page para mapanood yung mga yan. And, ayan, screenshot mga puro screenshot lang, papakita ko. So, masasabi natin, in a way, in-archive siya muna via the live streaming kasama ng talkback. Yung talkback actually importante kasi yung film, may kopya kami. Pero yung talkback, live stream siya kagad. Parang yung ginagawa natin ngayon, di ba? Nire-record sa YouTube. So, yan. So, dina-download namin kagad yun kasi yun yung pag hindi na secure, yun yung sayang. So ito yung recently, October 5, for Activista ulit. Yan, nag-pitch ulit at 3 na yung pinalabas in a day na nangarap na wow, hindi lang isa. So yung una yung Lakbayan 84, then Daluyong, tungkol din sa Lakbayan 84 yung Daluyong. Kung naririnig natin yung Lakbayan na yung tungkol sa mga IPs, pero ang original Lakbayan, it's about the boycott call during yung March 84. At alam ko yan, kasama natin si Teddy ngayon. Isa yan sa mga pinapasalamatan kong mga kasama ko sa Sofia na talaga namang nagbigay ng mga makabuluhang impormasyon sa akin, ng mga kwento, yung kumbaga nabusog ako hindi lang sa panonood ng pelikula, kundi sa pakikipagtalakayan sa kanila. Yung pwedeng sabihin mga mentor kasama ni Cesar Hernando na yan nagbigay ng mga backstory. So bakit ko sinasabi kaugnay yan sa Daluyong? Kasi yun, sa kanila ko rin nalaman na anong koneksyon ng yung Lakbayan Daluyong sa Sister Stella L na original na Sangangdaan. So, yung na ang Sangangdaan, yung original Sister Stella L, merong clip sa dulo bago ang credits na may clip ng Lakbayan nung nasa Makati na. Yun, yung mga ganon. And, ayan, tapos another film nung October 5, yung Memory Project 07, Kaigorotan. So, ayan yung ginamit na na pubmats noon. Tapos I think ayun, mabilis na lang din pakita ko lang. Yan yung Lakbayan. Yan si Chino Roses, yung mabilis na nakita natin. Yung UPLB, nasa dulo siya nung isang docu. Ito kasi daluyong, buong yung kinover niya from Assembly Point kasi sa South, yung San Pablo, going to Metro Manila. Pero yung isang lakbayan na film, yung naman, ano siya, from San Pablo hanggang UPLB, hanggang Cultural Night ng Lakbayan na ginawa sa UP Los Baños. Yun yung, yung magkaiba dun sa dalawa. Yung isa hanggang, yun nga, hindi umabot ng Metro Manila yung documentation, pero very, yun nga, mas detailed siya. At tapos ito yung daluyong film to naman nila ni Joe Clemente and Neil Buwan. So tapos, forward, Buwan majored in. Ayan yung kaigorotan. Ito yung kaigorotan naman.
Their growing consciousness.
So, ayun, ako yung nag-moderate. Tapos ito yung
Baguio Central
ayan.
School, Baguio City.
So example yan nung aming content expert, si Joanna Carino, isa siya sa mga, talaga mga, tama bang term, veteran activist. Basta panahon pa ni Marcos siya, activist at isang IP leader at Ibaloy yun, IP leader. So siya yung, nandun din siya nung yung Cordillera Day na na-feature sa Kaigorotan. Nandun siya, tapos nakwento niya sa talkback na kasama niya doon si Leana Alejandro doon sa Cordy Day. Kasi yung Cordy Day, doon sa Kaigorotan film, it's the first Cordillera Day post Marcos. Pero it's the second. Kasi yung first Cordy Day was the last year ng Marcos. Tapos Marcos dictatorship. Tapos yun nga, ma-oust. Tapos yan na, yung sa docu na cover. Kasama sa docu niya na interview nila si William Henry Scott. So anyway, so ayan si Joanna Carino. Tapos eventually, ayan yung panel nung eto si Joanna nga, para sa Kaigorotan, nag-feedback siya doon. Si Jokwa, kasama siya sa gumawa ng lakbayan at saka siya rin yung kasama sa Kaigorotan kasi Alter Horizons yung gumawa nun and member siya nun, pero member din siya ng Asia Vision. So anyway, eto naman sila Joey Clemente at Neil Duwan sa kanila yung daluyong. Although naging member din si Joey ng Asia Visions na naging Alter Horizons din. Basta may mga overlap yan along the way. Pero sila yung mga filmmaker nung mga panahon ng 80s. So ayan si Bubble Roldan sa Kaigorotan. So ayun po. Ang nakakatuwa dyan kasi talagang yung konsepto ng pamana kasi yung mga kwento nila nung panahon nila, tas yung makikinig tayo, yung bridging talaga siya nung henerasyon. Kasi nga, ang idea is never forget. So, ayun, yung syempre tribute namin to, yung sa CAP Memory Project sa mga Chair Emeritus ng CAP na namayapa recently, and si Neil Doloricon at si Gabian Dondera. So, anyway, so CAP page. So, ang mabilis na lang, kasama sa mga other public programs, ayan, nagawa rin yung initiative na mapalabas yung sakada. Ang ginawa dyan, hindi siya ni-restore, pero at least nag-rescan. Kasi comparing nga yung DVD sa nabibiling DVD, tapos yan yung na-rescan ng FDCP, na-manage namin na mag-collab. Mahabang kwento din yan kung paano nag-culminate siya sa scanning yan at pagpapalabas. Pero ano yan, usually, ang MOA kasi, ang rules sa FDCP, basta makuha mo yung paalam mula sa depositor, so nahanap namin yung sino ang copyright holder ng sakada, na ipaalam yan, pinaalam sa PIA kasi PIA yung nag-deposit ng reels, and from there, naayos yung film scanner ng FDCP, in-scan nila, tapos yan, nilagyan ng mark para, one screening purpose lang ng December 3, 2018 para sa Artists for Human Rights screening. So ayan yung publicity ng Film Center for the event may role ako diyan kasi ako yung nag-coordinate ng lahat yan. Ako yung naghanap ng copyright holder, blah, 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 blah. So, tas ito naman, another project is ito from the other countries naman. Nung pag may chance akong pumupunta sa Europe, pumupunta ako sa archives. So, nung nakapunta ako sa Netherlands Institute for Sound and Vision, fast forward, pumayag sila na basta campus screening, free na napalabas yung docu na ito, yung Trilla in Manila. Trilla in Manila is, ayun nga, yung credits, balik ko lang sa yung KRO, isa siyang public broadcaster sa Netherlands. Tapos, nung 76, May 1 nila yun napalabas. So, kung martial law kailan dineclare sa Pilipinas, pwede nating sabihin, ito na yung isa sa closest documentary na nahanap, kung ako personal na nahanap, na nagre-reflect ng period na yon, na kasi labanan ng di ba ngayon, mga distortion sa kasaysayan. Ito nag-crackdown sa mga media sa Pilipinas, pero the foreign correspondents did not stop parang from covering what's happening in the Philippines. At yun yung teorya ko na concept ko na naging guide ko, na ang foreign correspondents, hindi sila huminto, makakahanap sa iba. So, ayun nga, nakahanap. And ang kwento niyan, merong laban yung, ba't ako na may mental block? Tulungan niya nga ako sino yung nag-boxing sa Pilipinas. Si Ali. Ayun. Yung ginawa nung crew ng KRO, sabi nila, i-cover nila yung laban ni Muhammad Ali at saka ni Fraser. So, binigyan sila ng pass ni Marcos. Tapos nalaman nila na wala lang, yun, cover lang. So, nung napalabas daw to sa Netherlands, galit na galit ang, alam nyo na. So, ayan. Tapos ang ginawa namin dito, nag-effort na lagyan niya ng subtitles. So, buti nakahanap ako ng marunong na Pinoy na nakatira sa Netherlands. Tinrabaho namin yan, ginawa niya ng transcribe, tapos yan, from Dutch to English nilagyan ng subtitles. So, basta tulungan yan, collaborative lahat. So, ang kasama sa initiative is yung mag-support sa legislative advocacy. Meron ngayong nakasalang, kung hindi nyo alam, sa House of Representatives na yung special committee on, yung SIPA, ni Kong Tof de Venecia, yung Philippine Audiovisual Archives na yung pangalan niya. Originally, National Film Archives Bill. Pero marami nang naganap, technical working group na. Ang pangalan na niya ngayon ay Philippine Audiovisual Archives Bill, PAVA. So, ayan yung pinapakita ko yung mga position paper na binigay namin ni Bono, ni Blisco Walim, ako, supported by the UP SLIS, the community. So, I mean the dean. So, ayan yung highlights ng position paper. And ayan, fast forward na lang. Ayan, promote ko na lang bukas. Ang dami kong pinapromote. Bukas, kung gusto niyo alamin ang many beginnings of film archiving in the Philippines, join kayo kasi si Joe Atienza, isa sa mga founders ng Sophia, at talaga namang magkukwento sa atin paano ang pagsisimula ng AV archiving sa Pilipinas. Marinig nyo. So, salamat. Ayan, Sophia page. Thank you.
Sige, thank you very much, Rose. So nakita nyo, napaka-active yung efforts in trying to keep the fires aflame, okay? And my biggest takeaway from Professor Rose's talk is that one of the most important aspects of archiving is to allow our century of dreams, that's what I call the Philippine Centennial, to live, okay? Kasi hindi lang naman feature films, kundi documentaries, particularly the political documentaries that need to be constantly revisited by our younger Filipinos, especially yung mga gustong gumawa ng pelikula. Para makita nila na that Philippine cinema is have always been a committed cinema. I'm sure marami kayong mga tanong, and please kindly use the chat box, no? But as meron nang pumasok na initial questions, so habang nag-iisip pa kayo ng mga tanong nyo, allow Sir Ed to just read some of the initial questions. So ang unang tanong, sandali pagbigyan niya na si Sir Ed, 67 years old na, huwag niyo akong madali, upakan ko kayo. Anyway, the first question goes to Dax. Magandang tanong. It's actually very important concerning what you're doing. What actual security measures are you taking so walang piracy when it comes to the people who access your kiosks? And sama ko na yung pangalawa, can films in Mindanao archives be distributed commercially? So dalawa yung Dax.
Okay. So to answer your first question, what security measures are being applied? First of all, the the first security measure is against the loss of the films now. So I mentioned a while ago about redundancy of the data. But to specifically to answer the question about piracy, first of all, our servers, even the kiosks, no, are encrypted. So even if someone steals the drive, they're not able to access the films because they are encrypted. Second, we have access policies in terms of who can access the films and how these are accessed. Even when we start encoding data about the films, we have metadata on who had access to the film and who encoded certain information about the film. So we can trace that now. So it's actually very difficult to pirate the film. If they steal a drive, they can't access the data. We have access. We have information who has access to films. We limit those who has access to films, so that hindi siya ma-pirate. And we're very strict about that now. And when we do community archiving, for example, we have a list of who had access to those films. One thing that we do with the kiosks, I don't know if some of the audience noticed when I did the demo a while ago, there's a reminder not to take video recordings of the films in the kiosk. But one thing that we will be doing, actually, we haven't done so yet because of the pandemic, because our kiosks are not online, or they're completely offline. So whenever we update the kiosks, we have to physically go to the kiosks. And since right now, both cinematheques are being renovated. I think the Nabunturan one is already done, but the kiosks are not accessible right now. The one in Cagayan de Oro, limited access lang din because of the pandemic. But anyway, when we are able to, we would like to put a watermark on the videos on the kiosk, so that when they watch something, at least we know where they got it from. No? That they recorded a video of the film, for example, from the monitor of the kiosk. But to be honest, we cannot prevent people from doing that. I mean, if you watch a film in Netflix and you get your phone and record a certain part of that film, or the whole film for that matter, you really can't stop people from doing that. But we know the audience, not the people who want to access these films are respectful naman of the films that they are trying to access. So we're positive, no? We're very optimistic that people won't do that. And anyway, all they have to do is tell people to go access these films in these kiosks. No? And if ever a filmmaker allows it to be online, if ever we are able to bring this online, and a filmmaker allows it to be viewed online, all they have to do is really point these people to where they can find it. No? So they can just watch the film and not have to pirate it. So, and besides, this is not a commercial endeavor, what we're doing. So basically, we use this is really for academic use. So it won't be as readily available to everyone. Although the internet will make it easy to access. Like I said, if the filmmakers don't want it to be screened online because maybe they want it to be screened, for example, for commercial purposes in other streaming venues or streaming companies, then that's perfectly fine. We will not put it online. It's really up to the filmmakers, and we have a deposit agreement wherein that is specifically stated there. If they want it to be screened online, if they want it to be available on the kiosk only, or if they want it to be screened only during special screenings like festivals or or special private screenings for schools, they can state that they're in the deposit agreement.
Very
And
good.
that agreement can be changed also anytime. If they don't want, if there comes a time they want it to be screened online, then we can easily change that. If, for example, there's just a window that they want it to be screened online, we can do that as well. Like, don't screen online until 2025. We can do that. It's all in the deposit agreement.
Very good. I have a suggestion, Dax. No, pasensya ka na, no? Nakikialam si Sir Ed. But I'm taking this from the point of view of a film professor. Sometimes a student comes up to me and says, "Sir Ed, can we have a copy of Andong by Milo Tolentino?" And of course, I cannot give a copy. What I do is I connect them personally to the filmmaker. And I tell them that you negotiate with the filmmaker. Thank God, 99% of the independent filmmakers naman are just happy that their films are being requested for research by students. Maybe you could be the kiosk could be a conduit as a connection, a connecting point between researchers and the filmmakers themselves. So that's a wee suggestion from your old friend.
Thank you for that. Actually, we do that as well. No, if like I said, I mentioned a while ago, some filmmakers just want their films to be archived but not be available in the kiosk. We can do that, and then if someone wants to get a copy of the film, all they need to do is we can connect them with the rights holders or the filmmakers, and then they can contact them directly. But even the act of a filmmaker giving a copy of their film to students, it opens it up to piracy already. So it's
I know.
this is the least of their concern. It's I think I think although it's very valid that they want to keep a hold of it and because it would possibly make money, generate money in the future, they can exploit it that way. But remember, this is for people. This is for academic purposes. So it's really for students, for researchers to study the films and the stories that they tell.
Okay. And besides, when I went to the Cinematheque, napaka-tabi ng security guard yung kiosk nyo, dude, no? So, sinong maglalabas ng video o mobile para kumuha? So, I don't think you really have a problem. But thank you very much for that. The next question is for Leo.
And can I just add something to what
go ahead, please, Leo.
Kasi Dax is mentioning about piracy. You have to remember there are two kinds of piracy. One is the piracy of the film itself. The other is the concept itself. So lalo na, for example, you're talking about films that are created in the regions na hindi ganun kalaganap ang exposure. There are people who will go out and copy and present it as their own creation. So yun rin yung isang nakakatakot. And I think that's also, I figure na that's the greater worry more than just the physical copy of the movie. Kasi ang concept lalo na ngayon in the world of the internet, di ba? Pag may nag-hit dyan, kukunin lang. Kanino yung proper attribution? Wala pa naman tayong proper copyright filing dito.
Leo, it's all right. No, that's a beautiful reaction, Leo. Huh? Leo, the next is for you. Somebody asks, how do you think as a private sector enterprise, can government help contribute to your efforts? Okay? At ano ang wish mo for film archiving in the field? The last one is a beauty contest question, but actually, yun na nga. How do you think government can help the private sector in your film archiving effort? And finally, your siguro personal wish for archiving in the Philippines.
Oh, well, as Rose said earlier, diba, there's a plan for the national archives, audiovisual archives. But personally, I worry about it. Kasi parang, why are we focusing also on such a large scale? When you think about it kasi, movies siguro of the last 10 to 15 years, people are actually aware of their value because there was the internet already. So in terms of preservation, conscious na ang taong magpe-preserve. To me, the more urgent are the older movies that are day by day deteriorating and disintegrating. So kung halimbawa may mahahanap na pelikula sa Mindanao na made in the 60s and 70s or kahit yung mga dito sa National Capital Region, ang feeling ko kasi yun yung mas uunahin eh. At a certain point, you really do have to prioritize. Now, I think, objectively speaking, I think it would be great if the government can also offer incentives to people who are archiving their own films. So whether it's in the form of tax breaks or in the form of support, technology transfer, and whatnot. Kasi hindi naman pwedeng sasabihin mo, lahat ita-turn over mo. Kung halimbawa ang feeling mo, you're doing a great job keeping it on your own, pero ang importante kasi is getting that mindset of archiving into play, not just one superstructure, but having everybody into that mindset. And ang importante dyan is knowledge transfer. Ang importante dyan is training. Kasi kailangan ituturo mo rin dun sa mga tao, kahit yung mga gumawa ng pelikula noon, na ito ang mga dapat yung ginagawa, kaysa sabihin, sige, kukunin na namin lahat yan. Kasi ang feeling ko may danger rin doon eh. Any movie from the 1950s to the 1990s, magkakaibang kondisyon yan. Wala namang catch-all yan na halimbawa, ito lang ang paraan mo para ma-preserve yan or whatever. May iba-iba yan nuances eh. Kaya tingnan mo, kahit naman sa Amerika, hindi naman centralized ang archive eh. There are multiple archives. There will be ones that specialize in nitrite stock. There will be ones that will specialize in documentaries. There are ones that specialize in, for example, in acetate stock. Kasi magkakaiba yung mga conditions nun. So ako ang feeling ko, the thought process should be more in that direction. Kasi kung hindi, we also run the risk na as we're trying to put together everything, yung mga marginal na mga mas luma na, mawawala na. Ang perfect example niyan, to me, was Misteryo sa Tuwa and Soltero. Di ba sabi ko, it took 7 years to restore that. Ang sinabi sa amin ng Retrovata, Leo, it's a good thing you sent this to us because in another year, we would not have been able to scan it anymore. So, alam mong it's a race against time. So ako, ang feeling ko, yun yung support eh. It's education, it's funding, it's incentive, it's initiative, providing a venue. Like for example, pag mag-a-apply kami sa MTRCB, sana kung ang restored movies na hindi naman kasing popular ng mga malalaking pelikula, mas mababa ang babayaran sa MTRCB fees. Kung ibabayaran namin, kasing taas rin nung babayaran kay John Lloyd at saka kay Bea o John Lloyd at Sarah, ano ba naman ang kikitain ng 100 million as opposed to, siguro maswerte kami kung may 10,000. Di ba? I mean, if you've gone to cinema screenings of the restored movies, you've never seen a rush of people falling in line to watch them. Kasi in the grand scheme of things, nasa pinakamababa ang restored movies eh. Matanda na ang artista, hindi nila kilala ang artista, luma ang pelikula, walang magpo-promote. So kung titingnan mo yun, parang dapat maiintindihan mo rin na yung sa taas commercial, ito advocacy na. Ito tulong na sa estudyante, tulong na sa future Filipinos. So I think you have to have that whole range.
Thank you, Leo. Actually, one of my suggestions really is it's a concerted effort between government, the private sector, and the academe. The government is there to help provide policies. Like, for example, sinabi ni Leo, in Siang, my God, how many years na yan? Wala na dapat yung bayad sa MTRCB, right? Dapat nga, it should have been subsidized na the more you show this, babawasan namin yung mga funds nyo. So again, that small policy can help in the efforts of promoting these old films. The private sector is there, importante kasi kayo may pera, dude. Ang gobyerno may pera.
I beg to differ at this
point.
Anyway.
Makinig ka muna. Ang private sector, at least may pera kayo na nandyan. Yung gobyerno may pera, nasa bulsa ng mga you know what. Okay? So, at the best, the government is just there for the policies. But the private sector, pwede kayong mag-mobilize ng resources and hopefully come out with the sustainability aspect. Yung academe is crucial because these are the kids who will create the future of Philippine cinema, either as audiences or filmmakers. So, before I ask one of our audience, si Ange, because she raised her hand, ikaw, Rose, how are you doing with the Congress? Pasensya ka na, I don't trust our Congress eh. But kamusta ka na?
Ang backstory kasi niyan, nung naunang Congress ba prior to the, di ba 18th Congress ngayon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So the 17th Congress, may initiative nandyan, si Rep, si Lucy Torres Gomez. We already did parang initial lobbying work during that time. We gave her our position paper. Kaya nung nalaman namin na there's another effort now in the current session, Congress, and this time it's 5 versions. It's actually 4 are similar in nature. Parang legitimizing the already existing, yung meaning under pa rin ng FDCP, yung National Film Archive. Pero there's another version, the 5th bill, na exclusive autonomous. And naging coincidental kasi I told you 2017 pa lang naglalobby na kami for an exclusive mandate, exclusively autonomous na entity. Kasi pag inaral natin, quick lang yung FDCP mandate, one of the many mandates lang niya yung archiving. And if babalik ka natin yung story nung ginagawa yung law na yan, kinailangan lang din nilang ilagay kasi nga wala pang institution na for archiving. Parang mahirap din na meron kang film yung na government agency na hindi mo rin lalagyan ng ganong trabaho sa light na walang di ba? Parang it was really just a temporary, it was never meant to be na stuck dun sa institution na yun. Ang ideal kasi talaga, ayoko i-preempt yung webinar namin bukas. But Joe Atienza is yung panahon na kumukuha sila ng training, kabatch niya, si Dom Sukbong. Na-meet ko si Dom nung nagpunta ako sa Sipava Conference 2018. Magkaklase sila sa efforts. So ang point, kamusta na ngayon ang National Film Archives ng Thailand? Wow, nga. As in, ang sarap umiyak nun sa inggit. Nung nag-tour kami sa after ng Sibaba Conference, tinur kami, nag-educational tour sa archives nila. Doon namin na-meet yung si Dom, pero ang nakakatuwa, ang daming young and even female archivists. Alam mo yun, yung
Tama.
big deal sa akin yun. Wow, in one room, all yung mga nasa film, nila, yung nag-film repair, ay mga babaeng archivist na parang, parang nag-picture pa nga ako kasama nila. Kasi parang, alam mo yun, napaka, ang sarap ng moment na ma-record. So anyway, ang point ko lang, fast forward now, meron namang efforts. Pero, at the end of the day, it's getting the path, I think that's the right term, path straight. Kailangan natin talaga ng isang bigger role ng state on archiving. So, walang problema, magandang marinig yung comment ni Leo. Actually, yun yung aim nito. Mag-diskurso tayo. Ano yung best? Kasi at the end of the day, ayun nga pag wala tayong gawin, wawa yung mga next generation.
Of course. Thank you, Rose.
Akin muna. Pero tayo, last pala, I think we're waiting for another notice from them kasi 3 TWGs pa lang yung nangyari. I mean, mahabang technical working group yun. 8 hours max, ganyan. Pero wala pa po yung consolidated version. I think we're waiting for that latest version. So let's see kung ano na pong mangyari.
You know why, Rose? Kasi as early as 1989-90, kami ni Hami Soto, who was my boss in CCP, talagang pinag-uusapan na yung National Archive. So parang, as I mentioned in the intro, it's really aspirational at this point. Ange, our friend from Mindanao, are you still there for the final question? They moved the awarding ceremonies for us, guys. Thank you very much. Hi, Ange. I miss you. Sige, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Loud and clear.
I raised my hand kanina nung nag-may conversation between Sir Ed and Sir Dax. I-share ko lang sana bukod sa question din kay Sir Dax. Una yung question, parang ready or open ba siya na yung magkaroon ng kiosk sa mga like NCR libraries, ganun. And then yung i-share ko sana, kasi I did that nung batch namin sa Sinimalaya. Yung institution was Ateneo. So they are very open na kumuha ng mga films. And ang ginawa ko for them, share ko lang, lahat ng batchmates ko sa Sinimalaya, hiningan ko ng kopya ng film nila. So ako yung naghingi nung ako yung nagpapirma ng document na kung willing silang i-donate yung film nila dun sa library. So meron na yung Ateneo, meron na ng collection ng films namin nung batch namin. So yun. So baka kung open yung si Sir Dax, kung open siya sa ganon, yun. And then yung siguro since wala na rin tayong time, siguro yung question ko na lang po sa lahat ng speakers. Kung do you think we should look at yung archiving business-wise? Kasi I resonate well with Sir Ed na ang gastos niya. So, do you think, or academic lang siya, will do the technical, especially yung technology, nagbabago siya. I mean, is monetization should be part of an archiving program?
Can I answer that? Kasi when we set up the ABS-CBN archives, that was always part of the plan, even in 1994. But the reality is, most people don't want to pay for archiving because they feel that, teka, bakit nagastusan ko pa yan? You have to remember, lalo na when you were storing films and prints, tuloy-tuloy ang gastos mo dyan.
Yeah.
So as far as they were concerned, to them, it was parang a money pit. Now, I think what they fail to realize though is even if your movies are on digital seems cheap in the beginning, but because of all of the changes in technology, you have to keep spending on migrating, the constant migration. And it's not just migrating it kasi titingnan mo, readable pa ba siya and whatever. So pag tiningnan mo siya, pag sinuma mo siya, para siyang solar energy. Solar energy, mag-i-invest ka sa umpisa ang mahal-mahal, pero 5 years, 10 years down the line, makikita mo na yung natitipid mo. Sa ganun ang film prints at saka film stock. Pagdating sa digital, mura sa umpisa, pero habang tumatagal, pamahal yan ng pamahal. So yun, to me, yun yung danger dyan. In fact, we've talked to even the likes of mga Sampaguita, LVN before, offering them, mababa yung rates and whatever. Kahit sa sobrang babang rate, they still found it expensive. So I think...
Lang tanong.
Ha? Ano?
Pwede ba magtanong, how do you convince yung like higher ups na they would have to invest on it?
Well, it's the film owners kasi that you have to talk to eh. Kasi yung sa kanila, parang kumbaga, ay pwede ko namang i-aircon yan sa bahay ko pagkatapos ilalagay na lang sa ilalim ng kama. It could be as simple as that eh. Pero kung hindi nila nakikita yung wisdom, kasi ang nakakita niyan early on is FPJ and Reyna Films eh. So in fact, pag pumunta ka sa vault ng Reyna Films at ng FPJ Studios, makikita mo, it's not high density storage and whatever. Pero makikita mo na inaral nila at least yung mga minimum requirements para hindi tuluyang masira yung pelikula andoon. Ginastusan nila yon. Pero ilan rin ba ang katulad ni Armida Sigyon Reyna at ni Fernando Poe Jr.?
That's true. Ikaw, Rose, the question was, do you think it should be monetized? And Dax after. Briefly,
primary pa sa atin actually yung film appreciation and audiovisual appreciation. At the end of the day kasi, even if it's not paid, but people see to it na, I will donate. I mean, yung so matter siya ng kung appreciated talaga nila. Yung parang sabi nga nila, kung alam nilang dapat paggastusan. So, pero wala rin namang problema sa mga paid access, screening. Ano lang talaga, may reality lang din talaga tayo sa ngayon that we have to deal with. Na ilang naman sa restored films, even newly made films na they label as art film na parang ang art hindi.
Well, just to add, people are willing to pay to watch the movie, but I think ang question ni Angie is yung archiving itself eh. So producer ang kausap mo doon, hindi naman yung magbabayad para doon sa pelikula. So to me, yun yung isang malaking And I think also government has to reorient itself so that arts culture will be given a higher priority in the governmental agenda. As you said earlier, totoo naman eh, because ang ECP na buo during the Marcoses, mas may appreciation doon eh. But everything after that, natanggal. Kaya di ba wala na rin tayong Lydia de Vega, wala na tayong Rowena Arrieta, Cecil Licad. Kasi yung mga sinusuportahan sa arts, nawala lahat yun. So I think for this to prosper and to proceed, and so that people will have higher value in as far as arts is concerned, government really has to improve the ranking of arts culture and even sports in the government agenda. Bakit sa Europe, pagkarami-raming museum, pagkarami-raming subsidy, sa lahat ng klase ng archives, hindi lang isa. Kasi sa kanila, the past is important because knowing the past will allow them to proceed with their future.
Very good.
And doon ako naka-premise. Kasi nasa cultural values natin actually. Kaya I think yun yung mas trabahuin natin, yung how to give more value. Paano ngayon, pandemic, considered an arts na non-essential. Doon pa lang, magkakatalon na tayo eh. It's conditioning the mind na it's not essential. So, pero kung sinasabi na it's essential, that we have to do everything that, parang consider the safety protocol pa rin, of course, pero value yung libraries, archives, paano, di ba, magamit pa rin sa ganitong kondisyon. Iba yun eh. Iba kasi yung political, di ba, will din, nakaakibat ng cultural value. So I think yun yung sinasabi ko. Kasi if pag doon na tayo, yung issue ng monetization, like sa Netherlands, example na lang, yung na-screen ko sa UP Videotheque, ay sa totoo lang may bayad. Pero bakit ko napalabas yun nang walang bayad? Because despite na naghisingil sila sa iba, alam nila na pag educational, tapos one-time screening lang, face-to-face. Gets you know? So, may ano naman eh, may conditions na pwedeng i-apply yung free, etc., etc. May protection pa rin sa copyright owner, etc. But at the end of the day, because they have that value, kaya they have that policy. But yun nga, kung wala namang cultural value na para sa, yun nga, so talo tayo kagad. And last ko na lang, nagpalit ako ng DP, promoting the NCCA project with PU.
Kanina ka pa promote ha, sisingilin na kita ha. Sige, tuloy mo yan.
Minsan lang mabigyan ng pagkakataon.
Sige, love kita Rose, promote.
It's a digital archiving effort. Pag nagpasok na kami sa call, hindi pa kami officially nagpa-call, pero nag-call kami sa arts community, especially yung related nga sa COVID-19 collection, itong Philippine Documentary Heritage Archival Collection on the COVID-19 pandemic. So, yung kayo, yun lang naman yung heads up ko. Sana makiisa kayo sa ganitong proyekto. Kasi sa parehong diwa, importante ang pelikula, ang art as documentary heritage. Part ito ng audiovisual heritage natin, ng cultural heritage natin. So, supportahan tayo. Thank you!
Sige, thank you Miss Promotion.
Sandali.
Isa ka pa, Leo. Sige, tuloy mo yan.
Sorry, really quick lang. Related to what Rose said and Angie, and it will dovetail into Dax, no? Kasi, di ba, pinag-usapan natin archiving, tapos napapag-usapan ng restoration. But restoration is a very expensive process. Yung kanina, sa presentation ni Rose, di ba yung sakada, scan lang. So, pwede sa totoo lang, you can break the process in such a way para hindi naman maubos yung budget mo. For a lot of the old films, to the extent na pwede silang scan, that's already a step in the right direction. At least na-preserve na siya. Pagkatapos, yung kinadax naman, in fact, ang feeling ko pwedeng i-expand yung mga idea ng mga kiosks. And I think, for as long as it's not online, for as long as it's in the kiosk and it protects it, you will find more producers willing to participate. Kasi katulad kami, dati we would allow people to research in ABS-CBN. Obviously, with the COVID situation, we cannot. But if there is a venue like what the Mindanao Archives has, where you go to kiosk to watch the movie, kahit low res siya, to me, that will be a very, very valuable thing. So ang ganda nga nung sinabi ni Ange kanina na yung sa Ateneo might be willing to whatever. So we could actually pilot this with certain universities. There are ways for us to collaborate. So yun na, I just wanted to add that it's not one time, big time na malaking expensive. Pwede rin natin yung tagpi-tagpiin to be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish. Sorry, I know it's overtime, but I just want
to... It's all right. Sige, Dax.
Yeah, so going back to the first question of Ange, no, na pwede ba na ganun na, for example, mag-set up ng kiosk dun sa Ateneo de Manila? It's perfectly fine. Actually, we designed it in our system in such a way that it's scalable, so that if a host would want to have a kiosk in their location, for example, in Ateneo de Manila, we can do that. All they have to do is contact us, and then we'll tell them. Of course, no, it may cost involved to have a kiosk set up. Also in terms of what kind of a kiosk. What we did with NCCA is what we did is parang flagship kiosk siya. That's why maganda yung specs, 4K na monitor, but it doesn't have to be like that. In a library, pwedeng maliit lang na monitor, maybe so that you can accommodate 2 or 3 kiosks, di ba? Pwede naman ganun. So we absolutely can do that. We're just waiting for schools to approach us, or maybe government-run museums to approach us. Pwede bang may kiosk na, may Mindanao Film Archive kiosk dito? We can absolutely do that. Going to our second question about have we looked at any efforts to make it sustainable? it's hard, not to be honest, because, for example, what we're doing is we're asking for grants from the government, but in terms of making it sustainable, like pay to play na type na setup wherein people pay to watch a film, that's a whole can of worms, because we don't have the rights to do that because it's nasa producers yan. So when we do that, dapat may system kami para may kita rin yung mga rights holders. So we're not ready to do that yet, but I think, for example, sa what sila Leo is doing sa ABS-CBN, may incentive sila to archive their films because they can actually exploit it later on.
Okay.
Now, yeah, Leo is right. No, less people will watch restored films as compared to new films. So iba talaga yung cost involved. But overall, di ba, ABS-CBN can come up with a streaming service where they can watch the oldest films produced by ABS-CBN. So if it's a subscription service, they can actually make money from that. But for us, it's not something that we're looking at right now.
So bravo.
I'd like to add pala.
I'm sorry. Sige, go.
I'd like to add pala. Siguro, just for the filmmakers watching, it's really important for filmmakers to be aware also of archiving their own films. Not, diba? I know many filmmakers that approach us for copies of their films. So we ask them, what happened to your films? They misplaced the films, they lost the copy, they formatted their disc not knowing na nandun pa pala film nila, things like that. So they should be aware of how to archive their own films. And at the same time, I think they should learn to trust other institutions to archive their films also. Okay. So that, like I said, we all have to work together to protect these treasures. No? So if they do that, and if ever they lose a copy of their films, at least they know na may copy sa Mindanao Film Archive, may copy sa si Miss Rose, may copy ng film nila. At least they have a backup plan in case they lose copies of their own films. So I think what we're doing right now really highlights the importance of archiving, and I think what we're doing right now really helps educate the filmmakers that they really need to put focus also on preserving their films and partnering with other institutions so that their films can be archived and there will be easier access to their films. Kesa lang siya, mabodega lang, malagay lang sa bodega somewhere, never to be seen again because it's already old.
Very good. You know what, guys? I think they're giving us an extra 1 hour. No joke. Minamadali na nga ako sa chat kasi nga the awarding ceremonies. But before, ang pinakagusto ko sa discussion natin is the archives is not a boring topic, dude. It's so alive, vibrant, and well. And so, maski na magagalit sa akin yung mga host ko, can I ask for one brief parting shot from each of you? I'll start with Rose.
Dati nanonood lang ako. Pero dahil sa gusto kong manood at hindi lang ako yung manood, tingin ko kasi ang mga great film magiging greater. Parang maybe 1,000 people watch this very great film. But if 1 million people will watch that film hanggang sa next generation, that greatness will, di ba, expound exponentially. So yun yung diwa ko na hindi ako artist, gusto ko gumawa ng pelikula, pero hindi kaya ng powers. But ito, kaya kong manood at may engganyo ng iba na manood. At tutulong ako na maghanap ng hindi natin mahanap, lalo na sa parte ng kasaysayan natin ngayon na butas pa o hindi naman butas, nandiyan naman actually, pero nagsisikap pa tayong mabuo bilang yung collective memory na hindi tayo makakalimot, hindi tayo mapagkakaitan ng hustisya, di ba? So I think the archives will play a very great and crucial role in the next months to come. Usapin kasi ngayon ng mga kasaysayan, so baka maghalukay na ng mga meron sa baul. Lahat ng pwede. At kasama sa archiving naman ay oral history. The testimonies of people, di ba? So, ayun, yun lang yung akin. So, sana laging magtulungan. Nagsisimula naman sa simula ang lahat. Di ko naman din naabot yung mga na-share ko sa inyong kwento kung hindi, nung dati lang din akong nanonood lang. Tiyaga lang, kapit lang, sikap lang, interesado lang, passion lang, yun, consistency, maraming pipigil, pati pera, bulsa, mabubutas, mag-aabono. Pero at the end of the day, basta naniniwala, nagagawa, I think. Basta wag panghinaan ng loob. So,
Very
yun
good.
lang. Thank
So
you.
send my love to my ex-FUBU, Jo Atienza, tomorrow. FUBU, fun body, ang babastos ng utak nyo. So let's go first to, unahin ko muna yung mas bata, Leo, ha. So Dax, final parting shot.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned it now a while ago, no, because I'm sure there are a lot of filmmakers watching. Think about already, as early as right now, how to preserve your films. Archiving is really important. What we're doing, you probably don't have to do a lot of the hard work if filmmakers already did the hard part now on their own, and if they already have multiple copies of their films at different qualities, different formats, especially mga formats right now. No, it's very complicated, these formats. We have to deal with these things now. So if the filmmakers are already aware with that and how to keep proper metadata about their films, it would really help us a lot. No? So I hope, aside from making their films, which is very important, I think they should also start thinking of how to preserve their films so that it would outlast them. So at least immortalize yung mga works nila. So Miss Rose and Leo said na we have to work together, and we're here now, we're open, and I hope that we could work with all the filmmakers who want their films to be archived.
Bravo, bravo. And I hope to see you soon in one drinking session in Davao very soon. And my beloved Leo. Go ahead.
When we started the ABS-CBN Film Archives, hirap na hirap kaming kumuha ng tao, lalo na ng bata. So there was a period, 7 years ata, bago kami nakakuha ng bagong empleyado. Ever since we started sa Pelikula, parang every week may 2 o 3 bata na nag-a-apply sa amin. So yung sinasabi nga ni Rose kanina, na sa Thailand, ang daming bata, ang daming babae. That's my experience when I visited the archives in Europe and the restoration facilities. Kasi to me, ang importante, pag namatay yung pagmamahal sa mga lumang pelikula, sa atin, sa generation natin, sa edad natin, kawawa naman ang Pilipinas. Kasi makakalimutan na ang magagaling na gumawa ng mga pelikula noon. So this is parang our chance to be able to transfer that love, that affection, that interest, that passion in movies to a new generation. So, having said that, sana abangan nyo ang aming screening soon, pag natapos na namin, ng Sandata at Pangako ni FPJ at ni Charito Solis, ang huling pelikula na nirelease ng LVN noong 1959, I think. So, sana panuurin nyo yung pelikula nyo pag nilabas namin.
Bravo. And thank you very much for restoring Misteryo sa Tuwa, which I was the biggest star there. It's the only movie I appeared in as an employee of ECP. Thank you so much for restoring that. And thank you. I love you, Rose. I love you, Leo. I love you, Dax. I really miss you sincerely. And I hope this COVID can just disappear. And I thank you very much for Pelikultura for giving this beautiful space for people to talk about archiving, which is so important, folks. So tuloy-tuloy na tayo sa award ceremony, but I think I need to transfer the baton to our friend Kenneth. Thank you for having me as an MC. Bravo, guys.
An honor po. Maraming salamat po Sir Ed at saka po sa ating panelist. No, very informative. Marami po kaming natutunan sa naging panel discussion. So quick lang po, awarding of certificates, and then after we'll take a photo kasi pag walang screenshot sa Zoom, hindi raw siya nangyari. So ayun po. So sige po, let me read the citations first. So paki-next po ng ating slide. Salamat. Okay, so the UPLB Pelikulab awards this certificate of appreciation to Sir Dax Cañedo in recognition for his significant contribution as a resource person in the panel discussion on building our cinematic heritage initiatives in film archiving for the Pelikultura de Calabarzon Film Festival held on October 23, 2021, 4 p.m. Signed by the Assistant Festival Director, Joaquin Amitz, and the Festival Director, Catherine Gonzalez. Maraming salamat po, Sir Dax, for sharing your stories, experiences, and insights. The same, thank you po. The same certificate of appreciation as well. It's awarded to Sir Leo Katigbak. Maraming salamat po, Sir Leo.
Thank you, thank you.
And to Ma'am Rose Roque in recognition din sa kanyang contribution bilang resource person in our event today. And thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ma'am Rose. Okay, and also, of course, no, we also would like to award certificate of appreciation to Sir Ed Cabagnot, no, for serving as moderator po. Maraming salamat po na sa mahusay na moderation. Sa next year po, next Pelikultura po ulit, sana ay makasama namin kayo, Sir Ed. Okay, so ngayon po, let's take a photo.
Should I change my background to BBM?
Okay na po yan. Okay na po yan, Sir Ed. Okay. So I'll take the photo na lang. So 5 seconds to turn on your cameras if you can turn on your cameras. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sige, magpipicture na po ako. 1, 2, 3. Isa pa po. 1, 2, 3. Okay, maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat po sa ating audience as well, sa ating panelists, kay Sir Ed. So I'd like to invite po everyone sa aming closing. So evaluation form din po if you want to answer. Here is the link. And then again, we're having later in a few hour closing and awarding ceremony and the premiere of Pelikultura 2021 workshop film. So again po, from Pelikultura, maraming salamat po sa isang makabuluhang hapon na inabot ng gabi na diskusyon about film archiving. Maraming salamat po. Paalam po.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very much, Sir Ed, Sir Leo.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Ed, good to see you.
I miss you, Leo.
See you also.
You owe me wine. You owe me wine, Leo.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Please stay safe, ha? Lahat kayo, please, ha?
Yes, sir. Kayo din po. Paalam
Kayo
po.
din po.
Thank you.
Road to
Hi, guys.
recover. Thank you po, Sir Leo. Thank you po, Sir Dax. Thank you po, Frost. Thank you, Sir Ed. Bye
Take care,
po.
everyone.
Salamat
Thank you
po.
Enjoy the weekend.
Bye po.
Inuman
Happy
ka.
weekend
Okay.
po.
Alis na ako.
Bye po.
Bye.
Okay, kumusta ko kay Arnel?
Sige. Teka, nandito siya. Arnel! Dax!
We're live on YouTube, ha?
Ay, pa tayo sa YouTube.
Nagka-end muna.
Hi.
Okay.
Tama si si
Ate Ange.
Ed. Hagrid.
Si Ange. Oh, hi, Ange. Si Ange.
Ma'am Rose, ate. Bye-bye po.
Bye-bye,
I miss
everyone.
you too, ma'am. Bye po. Bye